Hey everybody, I'm Sophia Parola with Garden State Film Festival, and today I will be interviewing Chris Daniel. He will say his titles in the film, but he wore a lot of hats for this film. It's a documentary called The Bright Moments from Newark to the World, WBGO story. So it's so awesome to have you today. How you doing, Chris?
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and for submitting your documentary to Garden State. I'm so excited for everyone to see this. I got a chance to see it and I loved it. I know WBGO and 88.3 and I'm a big fan. And I just think it's so cool that you guys have this documentary about how it all began.
I'm glad you like it.
So can you introduce yourself to everybody and your title in this documentary, and then tell us about the documentary, please.
Okay, my name is Chris Daniel, and I was the producer, director, and editor for the film. The name of it is the WBGO story, Bright Moments from Newark to the World.
Awesome. And so I just would love to know, I mean, this documentary features so many amazing names, so much great research, just like, it's so enlightened. It's just the power of jazz. I just was like so inspired, and I loved watching how I didn't know that all this happened 40 years ago, how WBGO started. So I'd love to know just what was the process of making this documentary? How did it all start? You know, I just have so many questions. So
okay.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Here's how it started. The New Jersey Historical Commission, they had a solicitation out, and the theme was they wanted something that started in New Jersey and that grew larger than New Jersey. Like they gave, for example, like the Count Basie Theater, you know, started in Red Bank, and now everyone around the world knows about it. And they gave Sopranos, a New Jersey story, you know, now it's around the world. So since I'm a jazz fan, I've been listening since I was age 12. I said, hey, New Jersey, WBGO fits that bill. So I put in a proposal, and I was lucky enough to get the grant to do it. So once I got started, I knew one of the on-air hosts, and I told her what I wanted to do. And she got me in touch with Dorothon Kirk. And if you're familiar with jazz, Mrs. Kirk, she's the widow of the great Rahsaan Roland Kirk, the saxophonist, multi-instrumentalist. But anyway, she knows everybody in the jazz world from her days with Rahsaan. So once I talked to her, and you know, we got together with at least 20 people who started WBGO, and you know, I talked to all of them. You know, I mean, some amazing stories. But the cool thing about the whole thing, which made it really interesting to me, is they did it pretty much just for the music. You know, jazz is like a special music to people. It's not just something you turn on and listen to in the background. You really get absorbed in it for a bunch of different reasons. But the people were so motivated and so helpful to me. We actually did this whole thing in less than 2 years, which is pretty fast. It was just so much positive energy and so much support. It just blew by. I couldn't, you know, I'm like surprised it got done so quick. And it was a great process.
Wow. I was going to ask you how long it took. I mean, under 2 years, that's amazing, especially with the extensive amount of research and these, I mean, I was so floored by the amount of research that went into it. And I was watching the credits, like, how did you guys get all this research? I'd love to ask you, I mean, how did you get all that research? I didn't know, number one, like Duke Ellington wrote about Newark. I did not know Sarah Vaughan was from Newark. Frank Sinatra was from Hoboken. I was like, what? How did I not know any of this? I mean, how did you guys come about all this information?
I learned a lot from doing this. I mean, from being a jazz fan, the cool thing about a jazz fan is especially in the LP days, we all read the liner notes, and that's how you know the next person, you know, who played with who. So you learn a lot from reading the liner notes. But I had a lot of help from the Jazz Institute in Newark. You know, one of the researchers who was on the documentary, he was instrumental in helping, and you know, a lot of online work. And just from talking to these people, they're walking jazz dictionaries. I mean, the hosts, they know everything. Sheila Anderson, like I said, started me. They just know so much just by talking to people. I mean, it was a lot of online and in the Newark Library, but it was a lot of just talking to people, and you know, a lot of reminiscing, and you know, who was this, who was that, and the whole history. The cool thing is when I was talking to all these people, you know, part of the process is, you know, I had set questions I had in mind on asking people, because a 40-year-old story told by 20 different people, you know, how you're going to get that right. You know, it's a lot of potential to go wrong. But, you know, just talking to them, I mean, the common theme is they were all like, they were young kids basically. You know, Bob Ottenhoff was right out of college, and it was pretty audacious to think they could do this, but they were just young and said, hey, we can do it, whatever. They were just all motivated. And but back to the research, just talking to those people, I think when I talked to each person was at least an hour. And I was so absorbed just a few times during the edit where I ended up talking to the people during the interview, because I said, no way, you know, oh, that can't be true. And, you know, they corroborated each other's stories, but it was just crazy. And I got so many good, I won't call them outtakes, so many good clips that I couldn't fit them all in. So I'm thinking about coming out with a bonus DVD just to put some of that stuff on there, because it's really history, you know, it's real history.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't even imagine being in the presence of all these like amazing people, and especially being a lover of jazz. I'm sure you got carried away. And I was going to, you know, ask just, man, it's about an hour documentary. And I'm sure there's just, it must have been so hard just to piece that through. And I mean, what goes into directing a documentary? Did you know exactly what you were going into, you know, who you wanted to talk to, or kind of just went along with the flow as it happened?
It was a combination. It was sort of going along with the flow. I had an outline how I wanted to do it. But I was totally absorbed in it. What I did was I took everyone's interview, you know, put it on audio on the CD, and whenever I drove around in my car, I would listen to it. You know, it was about the only time I stopped listening to jazz in my car, but I would listen to everyone's interview 3-4 times, you know, listen to it around the house. So it was all stuck in my head. Then I had it all transcribed. So I would go back and take, you know, notes, red highlight meant something, yellow highlight, and little sticky notes all throughout the thing. So, and the story just kind of melded together. You know, one of the cooler things, you know, that was real fun is the soundtrack. Is Don Braden, who's a great musician. He gave me about 200 different cuts of music in different categories. And, you know, I listened to all the cuts, and we made a cue list. And what we did, we went into the studio. I had my laptop open, and I was listening to the documentary while these guys were playing music. And we said, okay, I need 3 minutes, you know, a slow start here, a hard ending here, or whatever. And those guys would play it. And he said, how'd you like it? And I was, okay, maybe take the bass out or just play it with the piano. And they would kind of adapt right there in the studio and tailor it to, as I was watching the documentary on my laptop. And that was so much fun. And it's amazing how good they are. But I was like a kid in a candy shop at that point, just listening, you know, listening to the music. And it was just something else. And that really made it pop, you know. That's something I knew from the start. I said, I'm doing this thing on music, and there's no way in hell I'm going to use stock music. It was just not going to happen. So I just had to figure out a way to get the music, you know, and get someone to do the music. And we figured out a creative way to do it. You know, luckily the musicians, they all played all of his songs before, but they were just tailored. But, you know, that was just a lot of fun. But,
oh my gosh, that's so awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, one of the things that really struck me when I was watching the documentary, I think it was towards the end, when they said that the last 40 years making WBGO what it was really challenging, but the next 40 years is going to be equally as challenging. And I was like, that really is true. I mean, I'm one of the very few people that I know. Me and my sister listen to the radio all the time and CDs, and like everyone else I know was just like, what? Like, no, Spotify, you know, Apple, like so much stuff. So I just would love to know, I mean, what is this documentary having it in Garden State mean to you and to the station? And like, just thinking about what the next 40 years is going to be like for this radio station. I mean, what do you think? What do you hope for this documentary and for WBGO?
Well, one big thing I hope is, you know, jazz is underappreciated. It's like, you know, I don't know, like 1%. It's like the least listened to music in the US. Around the world it's popular, but here it's like, I don't know, 1% or 2%, something like that. I'm hoping people will see it's a real New Jersey story, you know, listen, and maybe secondary, they may listen to the music. Where I think the music is going with WBGO is they have one advantage over streaming. And it's the same thing I was talking about, listen to LPs. You don't learn about the music through streaming. And that's kind of a real detrimental thing. You know, I love Spotify too, because anything I think of, I'll just dial it in and I'll get to hear it. But you don't get to hear who played on it or when it was made. And WBGO, they do that. The DJs are, they know what they're talking about. They know the history. They know who's playing. So when they talk to you, they tell you, oh, this was recorded here at this studio, and this was the group, and this guy played with that guy. And then you kind of start learning about it. And if you like, you know, you might just listen, like when you listen to jazz, you may listen to the saxophone one time, you listen to the drummer the next time, and you like that particular guy playing it or girl playing it, then you go buy that album or CD or whatever. But I think they, you know, keep playing the music and educating people on the music, they have an edge on streaming. Unless streaming starts, then it won't be streaming anymore. Then it'll be back to old radio. But that's the edge they have, is the educational aspect of the music.
Absolutely. And my last question for you, Chris, what does it mean to you having this documentary that you took so much time? You obviously have so much passion and love for the radio station and for what you did in your work in this documentary. What does it mean having it premiere at Garden State Film Festival? And why did you want to submit to this festival in particular?
I really wanted to submit it to this festival because it's the Garden State Film Festival. It's a New Jersey story. And I figured if I only applied to 3 festivals, it had to be a New Jersey festival. And I'm extremely proud that you guys picked it up and selected it, because it's New Jersey history and it's jazz history. And, you know, win or lose, I'm just glad people will see it at the Garden State Festival. So I'm extremely proud to have it shown. And I'm a New Jersey guy. I've been here all my life and I'm not going anywhere else. So, I mean, it's really cool to be having it, you know, selected and played in this festival.
It really is. It really is. And I mean, not only do I love jazz, and it means a lot to me just seeing, like, you know, a lot of people, just Billie Holiday and Etta James, like, I just love all these people. And then you have WBGO, which I listened to the radio station at Brookdale, and I had one of the hosts as my teacher for radio class. And it's just like, it means so much that I'm from New Jersey. I know Newark, and I'm seeing this amazing documentary with all these amazing people that's like right in my backyard. And it really does represent New Jersey, and it represents jazz, and you're the reason it happened, and everyone else who's a part of it. And I just,
in Newark too, I hope it gives Newark its props, because a lot of people didn't know Newark had that long history of jazz, well, entertainment. And for African Americans, that was one of the stops. You know, it was, you know, Philadelphia, Asbury Park, and then Newark, and then New York City. You know, I left out Philadelphia, so, but Philadelphia, then you know, then New Jersey, then New York. So I mean, it was a major spot for jazz and entertainment for Black people. You know, and you know, they could come, they could play, they have a place to live, they have places to eat. So I mean, it's a whole history. You know, that alone is a documentary. You know, just the stops. So like I said, I'm really proud of, you know, now I got something that's going to be an historic project. And it was only supposed to be a 30-minute program when I started it with the grant, but I just, no way I could do it in 30. So I had to stretch it to not even stretch it. I had to stop it at 60.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm so proud too, just being a Black woman, being from around Newark, being a lover of jazz. I mean, it is just so amazing. I'm so proud of this documentary. I can't wait for people to see it. And let me tell everyone how they can see it. It will be premiering Thursday, March 25th in Asbury Lanes, from the film block of 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in Asbury Park. So, I mean, it's so awesome. I mean, won't be in Newark, but in Asbury, where also music is such a huge part of Asbury and art in general. And I just think it's so great to have a premiere there, and people can also catch it virtually. So I just think it's so great that you finally will be able to bring this to the people of New Jersey and people all around the world. Everyone can tune into Garden State. So it's really awesome. And congratulations.
And that's right in my backyard. So is it going to be live and virtual, you said?
Absolutely, yes. This premiere will be live on Asbury Lanes, but you could also catch any of the things that are premiering live virtually as well. So you could be at home watching it, or if you are ready to go out there with a face mask and be safe, people can go in person and watch it there.
Well, I saw it already, so I'm good.
Multiple times, right? So, yeah. But I mean, it'll be awesome for people, if you are the people, to meet you too. I mean, I just think it's amazing that you were this one person and you did all of this. It just blows my mind. And I'm so happy I got to see it and be a part of New Jersey. And then I love jazz, and it's just, it's so great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
And thanks for picking up the film.
This program is brought to you in part by a grant from the New Jersey Historical Commission.
I heard that a license was going to be acquired in New Jersey.
A bunch of people in Newark want to put together New Jersey's first public radio station.
I really wanted to leave Boston. I wanted to come back to New York. And that's when I found out about Wbgo.
There was a lot of skeptics. You'll never be able to succeed there. Jazz, you're going to make it into an all jazz format. That's never been done before in public broadcasting. It can never happen. And worse than that, you're never going to get the support of your listeners.
When he started this, everybody said, it can't be done, it can't happen with the jazz station. But Bob proved them wrong.
So how do you go about starting a station from scratch in probably the media capital of the world? So that was the challenge we had before us. I began to look for a facility for the new WBGO headquarters. And I wanted it to be a place that was visible, that was accessible to the public, that became part of the heart of the downtown area. Then we found a vacant building in downtown Newark. We said, look, we're starting this radio station. We're not on the air yet. We don't have any money. We don't have any listeners, but we'd like to buy your building. And that's kind of, I guess, symbolic of how we did things at WBGO is we just knew it could happen. And we just broadcast. And we kind of said, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody who wants to listen to jazz? And people started to call. It was really amazing. And I'm convinced that jazz has the ability to go through the airwaves and find people wherever they are and draw them into our community. There's a power behind jazz.